back to the YouTube channel of Pro Enzo Vids, and this is my Newcastle Knights 2023 season preview. So, look, obviously as of recent, I did the Warriors season preview just last Friday, and the Melbourne Storm preview the week before also. So, been getting to the trend and getting back into the season previews after a little break from having them for the last couple of weeks. So. Felt it was good to bring them back and start again by doing the season previews for each club in 2023. So, today's Knights, and the Knights, I mean, they're a tough club to get a read on because there's so much that can happen with that club. Like, there's a lot of good things I can see, but a lot of bad things potentially can happen as well. So, it's a very tough one with the Newcastle Knights. A lot of question marks and a lot of answers to be asked. So, I think it's a very tough situation for the Knights to see where they are at. I know their trial form was pretty bad, and that indicates that maybe there's something up there, but it's just a trial, so you can't take the biggest sort of indications out of it. But yeah, the way they played with mostly their full strength side, they weren't that great. So I don't know. They're an interesting club, Newcastle, like I said, but. Without further ado, time to get into my Newcastle Knights 2023 season preview. And the first very part of this preview will start with my 1 to 17 that I would pick in my opinion. So on to my best 1 to 17 for the Newcastle Knights in my opinion that I would pick. So at fullback, Lachlan Miller. My wingers would probably be, I'm going to say probably Greg Marzhew and Dom Young as my wingers. Centers, Dane Gagai and Bradman Best. My halves would be, I don't like it, but I probably have to do it because I can't see Miller playing any other position than fullback. Callum Ponga at 5'8", with Jackson Hastings at halfback. My props would be Daniel Saifidi and Jacob Saifidi. Hooker, Jayden Brayley. Back rowers Tyson Frizzell and Lachlan Fitzgibbon. And my lock would be Adam Elliott. And off the bench, I'd have jersey 14, probably Kurt Mann. Then Leo Thompson. I would also have Jack Hetherington and Brody Jones rounding up my bench. So there's my 1 to 17 for the Newcastle Knights that I'd pick. On to the club's strengths for 2023 in my opinion. And I'd say some of the Newcastle Knights' strengths for me would be their forward pack and how it's still pretty strong despite losing David Clemmer and Mitchell Barnett. Obviously them two are big losses, and I think the quality that they did bring to the Knights was massive for the last couple of years they were there. But despite that, they've still got some depth in the front row stocks. I mean, I think having Saifidi boys start up front is a pretty good move. I think because I think both players are phenomenal, and I think those two boys will be a great upfront pairing for the Knights going forward. Jayden Brayley as a hooker is still very solid. I know he had an ACL injury and missed a lot of game time, but he's still a decent hooker who does a good job, I think. And the back row pairing, Frizzell's good, getting a bit older, but he's still doing a good job. Lachlan Fitzgibbon's the one that needs to step up a lot because I do think he's inconsistent and does have a bit of lingering issues about him. But yeah, I'm sure he'll improve on that, hopefully. And then at lock, tough one because you put Leo Thompson there if you really wanted to, or Kurt Mann, or whatever Knights want to do. But I think the clear answer is Adam Elliott, and I think Adam Elliott had a great year at Canberra, sort of rejuvenated his career pretty much going to Canberra. So he comes to Newcastle with his partner Millie Boyle, who plays for the NRL Knights. So I'm sure that gives him confidence and sort of just probably indicates to him that he's going in the right direction with her around and probably being at a good club like Newcastle, where it seems like a very family orientated club. So I think that does help him a lot. So I will say that forward pack's a pretty strong point. I think that if the Knights are to have anything successful go their way, it's their forward pack, and probably I'd say Jackson Hastings and Lachlan Miller. I think Hastings and Miller are both the X factor players and the dark horse players that can create something out of nothing. Ponga's up there, but I'm starting not to trust Ponga too much. Onto the club's weaknesses now, and I think some of the weaknesses for the Knights would have to be probably, I don't know, I guess just probably some of their depth in the backs. Like, I think when Young or maybe a Gagai or Best go down, like, they don't seem to have the best cover in the backs. I know Heimel Hunt's and Ari Tawala are good backs and good depth players, but I just think that, it's a bit of a weakness when they don't have that many options. Like, I think that they could just upgrade their depth a bit more on the back. So I think the back five needs a bit of a work on, in my opinion. So I'd say that's a little weakness for me. But I think the main weakness out of everything they've got is that, I know I don't want to sound harsh, but Callum Ponga playing 5'8" and Adam O'Brien as their coach. I think Adam O'Brien has about 5 games to start the season to prove himself. And I say, if Knights do start pretty bad those opening 5 weeks, well, what's going to happen? He'll get the chop and he'll be gone. So I think just having that expectations is a bit of a weakness for the Knights, because it just gives uncertainty and a bit of pressure on their coach. And I think that could affect them coming into the season. And seeing how Callum Ponga went against the Eagles in that trial match where he did play after a long time, his defence at 5'8" was shocking. Could not tackle, could not run or cause any threat. It's really concerning, actually, and I think he can definitely fix it, and that can change in the regular season. But no, look, I think Ponga, that experiment at 5'8" before was shown in 2019, and it did not work at all. So it's the last chance for him to really get that 5'8" position working for himself. But yeah, it's already looking like a fail at the moment. Onto the club's best signing now for 2023, and they've actually signed quite a bit of players coming to this year. They've signed Greg Marv's from the Titans and got him on a swap deal for Chris Randall, who went to the Titans, the young hooker. They signed Lachlan Miller from the Sharks, who is a pretty big signing in my opinion. I think he'll go really well playing a more consistent first grade at Newcastle, which meant it was another swap deal for Max Bradbury, who's a young under-19s prop to play for New South Wales and Newcastle, and not everyone's happy about losing him as he's a local junior. So he went to Cronulla. And they've also signed Adam Elliott, Jack Hetherington. They've actually made some good recruitment, I think, or good recruits, I think. But I think the best one out of them all has to be Jackson Hastings, the halfback. And they got him on a swap deal as well between him and David Clemmer, who went to the Tigers. So I think if Hastings can provide Knights what he did at the Tigers, despite them coming last, it would be massive, I think, because I think Hastings is a class player. Obviously, he's come back to the NRL as a more professional and a bit more of a mature player. And I think when he was in the NRL before the Tigers stint, he was killing it in the Super League, but I think not many people were sure how he'd go back in the NRL, as it's such a big competition with so much expectation. So, but he's handled it pretty well, and I think he goes to Newcastle with an open mindset, and he seems to be loving it down there so far. So, I think he'll be ready for a big year, Hastings, and I think he's their biggest signing and the best one too. On to their worst loss now for 2023, and it's a bit of a tough one actually, because they've lost a bit of players coming to this year, Newcastle. But I think when I thought about this question and stuff like that, there's no one more obvious than this one, and I think Mitchell Barnett, who's now at the Warriors on a big 3 deal, I believe. Losing Mitchell Barnett going to the Warriors is a massive loss in my opinion. And, I think he was the one that really kept that forward pack together and really gave it his all and was sort of the alpha of that forward pack. And I think Daniel Siler, Feedy and Clemmer were the alphas, but I think Barnett was considered a bit of a leader who had a big impact in that middle as well, playing for the Knights. He was shifted at back row lock a couple of times, but personally I think he's a great lock in my opinion, but you won't get that at the Warriors. But back row, he still goes all right. So I think he'll be great for the Warriors, but I think maybe losing him for the Knights is a bit of a blow, and that will hurt them, I reckon, losing Mitchell Barnett. He's been a good clubman for a couple of years now, so I think maybe him is their biggest loss, in my opinion. Alright, going for their draw now, so I'm going to go through sections of their draw for 2023 and sort of give my thoughts on how they'll go across these periods of the season, etc. So, round 1, they take on the Warriors at Sky Stadium in Wellington. Round 2, they travel to Leichhardt Oval and take on the Tigers on a Sunday afternoon match. Round 3, they take on the Dolphins at McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle. Round 4, they take on the Raiders at McDonald Jones Stadium as well. Round 5, they take on Manly at Glen Willow Oval in Mudgee. Round 6, they take on the Warriors at McDonald Jones Stadium. Round 7, they take on the Panthers at McDonald Jones Stadium. Round 8, they take on the Cowboys at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. And round 9, they take on the Eagles at Combank Stadium. And round 10 to bye. So that there is the Knights opening sort of year, or opening sort of weeks to start the year for 2023. Honestly, the first couple of games aren't bad. I mean, the Warriors game at Wellington will be tough because it's in Wellington. I think Warriors have a purpose to play well there for the Wellington faithful. Round 2 gets even tougher. They have to travel to Leichhardt from Wellington as well, so a lot of travel, so it may not be too easy. They do play at McDonald Jones Stadium a couple of times, like obviously in the opening 5, or the 5 games after round 2, they actually play 4 games in the next 5 games after round 2 at McDonald Jones Stadium. So how's that for an advantage? Wow. But the only game they do play in those 5 weeks that isn't at Newcastle is Manly at Glenwillow Oval, and that's obviously our home game because we take a traditional game to Mudgee. So that's what will be the game that isn't at Newcastle. And then round 8, Cowboys and Townsville. Round 9, Eels at Combank, and round 10 the bye. So I think that's not a bad opening 10 weeks for the Knights, honestly. I mean there might be some tests against the Cowboys and Townsville and Eels at Combank, and maybe the game against Manly at Mudgee might be a bit of a tester. And round 1-2 against the Warriors in Wellington might be a bit of a test. But overall, those 10 weeks aren't bad. So I think they should win the majority of them. Round 11 to round 20 goes like this. So they take on the Titans at McDonald Jones Stadium. The Sharks at Coffs International Stadium. Take on Manly again at McDonald Jones Stadium. Round 14 bye. Round 15 Broncos at Suncorp Stadium. Round 16 Roosters at McDonald Jones Stadium. Round 17 the Panthers at Bluebet Stadium. Round 18 the Bulldogs at Core Stadium. Round 19 bye, and round 20 the Tigers at McDonald Jones Stadium. So again, I think this is a bit more of a tougher period as they do play the Broncos and Roosters back-to-back weeks in rounds 15 and 16, and Panthers in the 3rd week at Penrith. So that's a very tough sort of string of games in that May to June period. But it's not overall bad. But yeah, I'd say that's the toughest period so far in that May-June period around the middle of the season. Now round 20 to round 27, so or round 21, I should start with first, is Knights and the Storm at McDonald Jones Stadium. Round 22, Raiders at GIO Stadium. Round 23, Dolphins at Optus Stadium in Perth, and this will be a double header between the Sharks and the Rabbitohs too. Round 24, the Bulldogs at McDonald Jones Stadium again. Round 25, the Rabbitohs at McDonald Jones Stadium. The Sharks at McDonald Jones Stadium. And last round of the year, they take on the Dragons at Jubilee Oval. So that's probably another easy sort of period, or not that bad of a, I guess, end of the season. A lot of games in Newcastle too in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I think going and travelling to Melbourne, or playing Melbourne and Canberra back-to-back weeks in Newcastle and Canberra might be a bit tough, but overall that's not that bad actually of a draw. Okay, on to the player that has to step up the most in my opinion for 2023. Oh wow, it's too obvious, isn't it? The player that has to step up the most for Newcastle this year is obviously Kalen Ponga. Why? Well, I mean, you shouldn't really be asking why. I mean, I'm asking myself that for no reason, but Ponga, the player that has to step up the most in 2023. Look, obviously he's the captain, and I think there's talk he might step down from that role. I don't know if he has already, but if he is, then that's probably the right call. But Ponga, the last couple of years, he's been so underwhelming. Like, he has not performed. He's been really off in games, and he seems to drift in and out of playing matches and stuff, like injury, suspension. Not suspension, but just injury and missing games. It's like a bit too much, I think. And for one of your high-profile players to really miss that many games since, I guess, the last couple of years now, since he's been at Newcastle, hasn't really stringed the best full season since 2020, really. So, you know, nearly 3 years now, and that's pretty bad if the last couple of years have not been the best. So, look, Ponga really needs to step up, and like he needs to pull the finger out of his arse and really know that he has a big input in his team and how they go. So, it's up to him to play week in, week out really well and show the people, the critics, that what he's really got. And I like Ponga too, don't get me wrong, I do like Ponga as a player, but honestly, for a player at his standard, he needs to be a lot better for his club. Origin level is often good, but club level, I think Newcastle fans deserve the right to see Ponga play well. So I I think he's a player that has to step up the most in 2023. But onto my final prediction for the Knights in 2023 and where I think they'll finish. Look, I like Newcastle. I think they're building towards something. And I think they aren't too far off from being a powerhouse club again. If they get it right, of course. But I still think there's concerns. And I still think they're in a real building phase towards that big point, like I mentioned. And I just think that with Adam O'Brien, as the pressure does start to cripple a bit more, I think that him and his contract situation may be a bit of a downfall and distraction for the Knights across the season because of the pressure of him having to be really good in the opening 5 weeks of the season. And Ponga and his consistencies at 5'8" and consistencies as a player in general may really hurt the Knights. And seeing how they went in trial form, it's really not their thing, defence. Like, defence is not their thing, so they really got to fix that up as well. But where I have Newcastle, I'm sorry to all the Knights fans that are probably watching this right now and stuff like that. I have the Knights finishing 16th, so that's one place above last. Look, I don't know. I might regret this one. I really might regret this tip about having the Knights this low, but honestly, I can't see much happening this year. I just think there's too many potential issues and too many potential dramas that could occur, and I just think that they are in a bit of trouble. So I do think that they'll come 16th and just avoid the wooden spoon, but O'Brien will be sacked, I reckon. That's my early call. But everyone, that's my 2023 Newcastle Knights season preview. What do you make of the Knights in 2023? Please do let me know in the comment section down below. But if you enjoyed, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and comment your thoughts on the Knights. But until then, thanks for watching. See you all in the next video.